Hello, and welcome to another episode of Set-4-Life Conversations, where we help you get your mind right and your money right by discussing life strategies for the everyday person. I'm your host, Thomas Lacoma, and each episode will spend some time with financial advisor, pastor, and motivational speaker, published author, and former college athlete George Thompson, as he shares with us wisdom that you can put into practice today. In today's episode, we discuss what it means to walk in faith. We talk about how to balance faith with taking action when faced with real-life situations. Okay. Hey, George, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing awesome.
Great. So today's podcast, I want to go a little different route. Today, I want to kind of lean into your wisdom as a pastor and a preacher and talk about a biblical principle that I've seen interpreted in many different ways. 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight."
Right.
So the implication of the scripture is that faith requires us to operate on things that we can't see yet or that are not visible, but in essence, to trust God. So in my life, I've had many experiences where I felt like I was taking a leap of faith. But then in other instances, I've kind of stayed really grounded in what I could see. So I feel like there's this balance between those two things. How do you think people should take this idea of walking by faith while still being practical and strategic in what they're getting done?
Thomas, first of all, this is a great question and one that I have to work in every day because
Mm,
first of all, we want to have faith. You have to have faith to be able to do anything. And it's funny because people have faith in things that are fake and not even real. And then
mhm,
they want to make sure that you have your faith in God in the right place. If you look at it, people will walk in a room and sit down in a chair without testing it or pushing anything up against that chair because they have faith that chair is going to hold up. But then they won't believe God will do something in their life. So if you look at it, we want to make sure that there's a balance for this reason. There's people that say, faith, I'm believing God that I'm gonna have $1 million at the end of the week or end of the year. And then there's people that think that they have to do everything by themselves. So you actually need to have a balance in what you're doing. It's like faith. If you look at it, faith is like in a car or in a vehicle. It's like fuel. It's something that powers it for it to
mhm,
be able to move forward. And then God created the vehicle, the car,
mm,
for you, your temple. And then as you're going and doing that, you need something in a car called GPS,
mhm,
global positioning system, or the Holy Spirit. That keeps
mhm,
guiding you as you're going. But you can't get anywhere unless you have the faith to know that you're going to get somewhere. So you got to start taking that initial step to be able to walk forward and then be able to do it. And faith is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more that it keeps coming
mm,
back and that you
mm.
can do it. So that if you have the faith of a mustard seed where you do stuff, you've seen God do it. But see, this is the balance part. Then you don't get arrogant with it. You don't say, God bless me with some money, then you waste it.
Mm,
Then say, God bless me again next week.
yeah.
So what you want to do is, oh my gosh, we can't talk about all of it today, but that's why you're a good steward over it. And that's why I'm so passionate about this because having the balance of God being about you doing so it's faith is, and I'm just going to answer it like this. Faith is you believing God and all the promises that God has promised you.
Mm, mhm,
Practical is you doing your part.
mhm.
I'm going to see how many scripture we're going to hit here. Faith without works is what? Dead.
Dead.
Is that
Yeah.
we think stuff is just going to magically happen. I
Mhm.
want to get a job. Don't get me started with the starters club and the finish club. I want to get a job. You spell for the resume. Well, God knows I need a job.
Yeah.
Or I want to get married. I want to date. Are you talking? I know we're in this situation right now, which in doing these, but are you dating anybody? Are you available? Are you talking to anybody?
Mhm,
You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like we have to. There's things that we have to do to
Yeah. Yeah.
activate. So there's things we have to do to get in position, and it keeps coming into my mind when you play football. Is that these wide receivers when they get ready to catch the ball, they have to get in position. We have
Yeah.
to get in position to receive what God has for us. And the first way we get it in position to receive is that we have a relationship with God, and that we're giving, and that not only that we're giving, but we're also doing things to get in the position in the areas of time, talent, and
Hmm.
treasure. And we've
Hmm.
done whole things on that. So I won't. I'll leave it with just time is how we
Yeah.
manage that. The talent, the skill that God bless with, and the treasure, our finances.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, there's an additional wrinkle to that where um, you actually don't know the level of faith that you have until something is hard. Like it's easy to believe in God when things are working out, or it's easy to quote unquote have faith when it's all going smooth. So I think about I had a pretty, I was pretty good in school, and so school worked out pretty well for me. I don't remember a time when I was going through school where stuff was so difficult that I had to struggle to do well. So academically, I did well. I went to a good college. In college, there was a little bit of struggle, but I rebounded. I got good grades, and I got to do stuff that I enjoy doing. So I remember the first time I really had something hit me like, you know, in the face was my first job. In my first job, I did not do well in that job, and I had never experienced something like that where I just didn't have like the answer of like how to solve this puzzle.
Right.
And it felt like a really big failure when I got laid off from that job. But what it also forced me to do was to really seek God about what was I supposed to be doing, because before everything just kind of worked out.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times I interact with people who uh, their faith in God is dependent on how well things are going, and so you start losing faith. But I had the opposite. Like I had to grab a hold of Him, because I'll tell you, my wife and I always share this story. Like I got married on a Thursday. We closed on our house on the Friday, and then I was laid off on the Monday. So
Oh,
think about all three of those things happening all in the same time.
right.
And so there was this like euphoria of all these cool stuff happening, but then wait a minute, the money that we based all of this on is like half or even less than half, right?
Right.
So that's one thing I've seen is for me personally, it's like that. Like I actually now welcome when there's a little bit of that challenge, because it's like, God, what are you pulling me to try to do? What do I have to have faith for now? So before you respond to that, I want to just welcome everybody. Um, Before we continue, I want to let you know that if you have a question that you would like George to answer, or it can be about anything: finances, relationships, getting things done. There's a couple ways that you can get your question to us. The first is to click on the link in the show notes of this episode, where you can leave us your question as a voice recording. You can do that right from your phone. You could follow George on Facebook. That's the best way to get in touch with him. The link will also be in the show notes. And then the third way is you can hit me up on my social media locations. I am at TZ Lucoma everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So yeah, let's get back to that. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this whole challenge and faith.
First of all, I'm chomping at the bit when you're saying that because, first of all, this is great because the tension between anxiety of how things are going to happen and faith should be able to relieve that, because when you lift weights, how you actually get stronger is the tension on the muscles, and
Hmm.
then what's happening is God is working. Like there's something that's very misquoted. They say all things work together for those who are called according. They say all things work. First of all, things don't work.
Hmm.
God works. So
Hmm.
what faith is that God's going to take care of it, but you got to keep doing, you got to keep moving forward. Remember the fuel. You got to keep stepping forward, and you got to keep doing what you're doing.
Hmm.
That was a great example that was a really good example that you just used. But that's what faith is. We have to just keep stepping forward and
Hmm.
that doing that regardless, and not giving up. But that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think about one of the most challenging uh, periods in my life was I have I grew up with two sisters, and one of my sisters passed away when she was in her early 30s, and I was the one who was at the hospital and got the news and everything. And until that point, because prior to that, I had had really grown in my relationship with the Lord. I had very strong relationship with God. I was, growing, felt very mature in that. But prior to that, I had not really known how strong that was, because I remember distinctly, almost like watching myself walk through things and knowing that it's just God that's helping me to talk right now.
Right.
It's just God that's helping me to make this phone call I got to make. It's just God that's helping me to plan out this memorial, which I never wanted to plan for my younger sister.
Right.
It's like all of these things where it's exactly what you said. It's like God is working. And whenever I start getting really a lot of anxiety or stressed out about something, I have to remind myself and say, hold up, how much am I trying to take on myself? I find there's a correlation between that level of stress and how much of it I'm trying to do by myself.
And then this,
You know?
the part is about that. I just want to say this, almost in conclusion, is this, is that I always think back, Thomas, in the Bible. And
Hmm.
if you look at it, every person that had faith and just did it right away, look at how it reacted. Look, the woman with
Mm,
the issue of blood. She's sitting there. She's had this for a very long time. And then when she sees Jesus, there's a whole crowd, everybody around. She went up and just took the hem of his
hmm.
garment. Suppose she just sat back and just let it pass.
Hmm.
That's the same time as all the
Hesitating, right?
business opportunity, all the things that happen where you just let it pass. I
Yeah.
think about that. So in the Bible, I'm going to ask you, Thomas, but I'm asking all listeners right now. If you could come in and I'm going to say I have five because I'm three. If there was at least three times in the Bible where you could have been there and watched it, and you could have
Mm,
been God's hype man. Like
mm,
I'll start off with number. I would have been with Lazarus. Like, you're
mhm,
walking behind him and everybody like this, and everyone's all crying and he's there, Lazarus, and Jesus, you didn't come. And then when Jesus walks up to a certain point, he stops walking. He didn't go in the tomb. He
mhm,
stops walking. And everybody's standing around. I would have been just like for those, there's a rapper, his name is Little John. I'd have been like, now y'all, now see y'all had him come on out here, right? And he said, Lazarus, rise.
mhm.
There had to be a whole bunch of people like, what is he? He's already there. What is he? And then when they saw
Yeah.
him come out, I would have been one of the little Johns right there.
Mhm,
Yeah, look at this. Look at all this. See that? And I said, the reason why he said Lazarus rise is if he would have said all rise, everybody would have stood
mhm,
up.
mhm. Just by the
That's
word
the
of his mouth.
power of God.
Mhm,
So right now, Thomas, and everyone listening right now, there's no limit. You could be
mhm,
in business right now. You could have 10 business cards in your pocket. All 10 of them could be disconnected. You could
mhm,
tomorrow, you can do anything. God can
mhm,
say, all right. Two, I said three. I said three. I'm just gonna do these real quick. That's also when they're walking on water. And then you
mhm.
let me know which one you would have been at. I think I would have been. First of all, Jesus, they see him out there and they say, if it is you, let me walk on. And Jesus is standing on the water and they put their foot out there
Yeah.
and they're walking and they put their foot out there and he's walking on water. And then what does he do? He looks down and he begins to sink.
Mhm,
That is a prime example of like I would have been like, Jesus, would you let me walk on water? And then just walked right on there. Is you see
mhm.
that how we tense up? So I
You
use
start thinking too much. It's like,
right,
if it's all going, sometimes that'll happen with me where it feels like, come on, it's like working out too much, and then you're like, maybe I need to help God out and
right.
do this extra thing when
But
he
I mean,
hasn't told you to do that
now
extra
let's
thing,
go through
you
faith.
know.
Now, these disciples watched this and then later on left. I mean,
Mhm.
so what we need to do is like we need to watch. Like I think after Lazarus rise, I would have been like, okay, you seem to
Yeah,
have it. You got this. You
yeah.
working. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and then the walking on water. I mean, just a different thing. And then how the last one I use is how God walks through people because I use one. There's a man that's sitting there and he's paralyzed. He's been sitting by this pool for 38 years and
Mhm,
unable to walk.
mhm,
And then do you want to be healed?
mhm.
And then he says, pick up your bed and walk. Jesus didn't pick up the bed for him. He didn't pick any of that up.
Yeah. It
And
told
then
him
that
to.
man
Yeah.
had it just the faith just in the voice of it, just in the power of God.
Yeah.
So what we gotta operate like that. We gotta
Yeah.
operate like that.
Yeah.
So we need to operate just like where we can understand that and we just operate like that. And
Yeah,
that's what we're having when we have faith.
yeah. So this has been a shorter than usual episode, but I really just wanted to touch on that topic of faith because George knows we're gonna share later, but when things work out. But I've been in a big faith walk that the Lord is just moving in mighty ways. So this was a topic that I wanted to touch on because if you're out there and you're struggling with something or you're feeling like something, it feels unsurmountable. Maybe you're trying to do it by yourself and not allowing God to show you how he can move in that situation. So thank you again for joining us for another episode of Set for Life Conversations with
Yes.
George. If you found value from what you heard today, there's a couple of things we'd like you to do to help us serve you even better. As I mentioned earlier, if you have a question that you want to be answered, drop us a message using the link in the show notes of this episode, or you can hit us up on social media. If you're interested in going deeper in any of the topics that George teaches about, one of the best ways to do that is to get one of his books from the Ready, Set, Grow series. You can find a link to that in the show notes as well. You can also work with him as your financial planner if you so desire. Those details will be included too. If you just want to learn about George and what he's about, check out his website at www.georgebthompson.com. So
Amen.
thank you again for joining us, and we're excited to keep sharing with these conversations with you. We are on this journey with you and feel like we're growing as you grow.
Right. And in this situation right now, I just wanted to say some parting. And what's going on, and then right now we're in the middle of this pandemic and what's going on, and you're seeing about injustices and everything. This is the time where faith is tested. This is the
Exactly.
time. And then also in the Bible it says it's impossible to please God without faith. So when you're doing that, you're not only you're seeing the benefit of it, but you're also pleasing God when you do that. So it's
Mm,
bigger than you. A lot of
yeah.
them do faith walks. Also, when you're doing something, also look at how it impacts other people's win-win. Like have a goal. If you have a goal that's just for you, remember this. If you have a goal just for you, it's not big enough. Don't do something just for you.
Mhm.
Whatever city you're in, change the city. Whatever city you're in, change
That's
the
how
state.
God's going to
Whatever
work through you,
state,
right?
you change the country. Whatever
Yeah.
country you're in, let's change the world. So
Yeah.
stop, don't think big.
Yeah. And
All
then
right, I'm
allow
gonna
him
stop.
to do
Sorry,
the
this sermon coming on.
work. No, that's
I'm
good.
trying
That's a
to.
good way to end it. So I hope we encourage you all today, and we will meet you again next week. All right. Thanks.
God bless you.